disrupted.
America that I fought.
Weird thing to happen. Hello, one and all. Welcome to this edition of Kitz Corner. Hope you're having a fantastic day so far. So I urge people to look into the history of Ukraine, because if you're paying attention to the war and the catastrophic damage that's happening over there, and you've been seeing a lot of stories recently about the hydroelectric dam that exploded and how the media is turning to spin it into stories like this from Yahoo News, where they say somehow U.S. eyes Russia in destruction of Ukraine's hydroelectric dam. Preliminary U.S. intelligence suggests Russia blew a major piece of Ukrainian critical infrastructure. First off, it is completely false. It is completely false, because the dam is located in the Crimean region, and Crimea is protected by Russian military. So the fact that Russia would blow up its own pipeline or blow up its own dam is ridiculous. Same on the same scenario as blowing up their own pipeline. It's illogically insane to think that this was the case. So the mainstream media, once again, is pointing the finger of Vladimir Putin as somehow this mastermind of blowing up their own infrastructure to devastate more of Ukraine and push more of this aggression. Which you see this time and time and time again. Again, to sell you the idea of war. But someone like Robert F. Kennedy Jr. is going to set us straight about what's actually happening and why this war started in the first place. Why the United States took interest in having this outrageous aggression towards Russia. Now, you've been heard for years that it has to do with Ukrainian and democracy and humanitarianism, but here's what he has to say on this.
Philosopher said that the U.S. strategy should be to suck Russia into a series of wars in little countries where we can then exhaust them. Lloyd Austin, who is the President Biden's defense secretary, in April 2022 said, our purpose for being in the Ukraine is to degrade the Russian army, to exhaust it and degrade its capacity to fight anywhere in the world. Well, that is the opposite of a humanitarian mission. That is a war of attrition, and that's what it's turned out to be. We have now turned Ukraine into an abattoir that has devoured 350,000 young Ukrainians. They are lying about how many people have died. They're concealing it from us. They're concealing it from the Pentagon's concealing it from the American people. The Ukraine is concealing it from them people, but 350,000 people. Russians are killing Ukrainians at a ratio of 7 to 1. And we have turned that poor little nation into, just a killing field for these idealistic young kids. And in order to advance a geopolitical agenda that, has nothing to do with the Ukraine.
So I urge people again, if you don't believe what Robert F. Kennedy Jr. was saying there is correct, I urge people to go watch the documentary Ukraine on Fire. Fantastic documentary by Oliver Stone. Highly recommend it. It's on Rumble or YouTube or one of the platforms there. And then also look at the social media accounts of people in Ukraine. And you tell me that people being duct taped, pulling their pants down by a bunch of Nazis in militia is for the good of humanity. You tell me where the democracy, the defending of democracy and defending of rights is happening when the people that were arming self-described neo-Nazis that have been confirmed, even with the Western media landscape, have been confirmed that we're arming a bunch of neo-Nazis, are defending the liberties and rights of Ukrainians. You tell me with those social media videos of people on Twitter with their pants being pulled down, or being eradicated, or being slaughtered. You tell me how we're defending the democracy. We overthrew their democracy in 2014. We overthrew their entire democratic platform in 2014 to install a puppeteer government and allowed this comedian turned oligarchy to continue to reign havoc to the point that he's opposing opposition. He's silencing out the opposition, not allowing anybody else to critique him, criticize him, or have a different perspective of this war. You tell me where the democracy that we're trying to defend over there is. Because RFK was right. And same with Oliver Stone. And same with other people that have truly looked and investigated this entire manufactured war. And it's exactly what it is. It's a manufactured war. RFK Jr. said it was an arbitraire, which is a French term. But it basically means the same thing, that it's not a humanitarian war. It has nothing to do with conflict resolution. And just like Julian Assange has been saying when he said about the Afghanistan war, that the reason, the purpose we go to these wars and continue on these as much as possible is to have continuous wars so we can benefit the profit and capital from them. This is all about geopolitical gains. This is all about corporate conglomerate. This is all about the military-industrial empire. This is all to do about globalistic investments into Ukraine. It has nothing to do with the citizens. It has nothing to do with defending anybody except capital and business. And here's what John Kirby had to say about when he was informed about the damage of the hydroelectric dam, because a reporter asked him in a press conference, "Hey, don't you think it's weird that Russia would blow up a key piece of their own infrastructure once again? Do you think it's a little suspicious?" And John Kirby, who looks like a scared little child right now, looks like a scared little child and lost in a mall trying to figure out where his mom is, tries to blow this off because he doesn't want to reveal the truth. Take a listen.
Does it seem believable to you that Russia would destroy a dam and flood ethnic Russian villages and cut off the water supply to Crimea? I mean,
so the journalist is asking, don't you think it's a little weird, suspicious that Russia would destroy a hydroelectric dam that would flood Russian-centric people? Don't you think it's a little weird that they would go after the Crimean people when the Crimean people are announcing and are proud of their Russian heritage? That they're more on the lines of Russian than they are Ukrainians? They're the ones that want to get defended by Russia, which is why Russia stormed in the first place, to defend the Donbass region, to defend the Russian-centric people of Ukraine. Don't you think it's a little suspicious that they would flood their own people? And John Kirby is panicked because now even the journalists are starting to put two and two together. We already knew about this because we're not part of the corporate machine. We're not being fed talking points at time and time again. We're able to investigate. We're able to do our own research. I know that's such a terrible thing to read into things, but they're finally figuring out. And now John Kirby, part of the White House, is now in panic about this and has to figure out, how the hell am I going to turn this around to continue to blame Russia for our wrongdoings?
that doesn't seem logical. It seems about as logical as blowing up one's own pipeline, doesn't it?
We've come to no conclusions on this. We're working with the Ukrainians. We'll try to get as much information as we can.
Does it seem believable to you that Russia would destroy a dam and flood ethnic Russian villages and cut off the water supply to Crimea? I mean, that doesn't seem logical. It seems about as logical as blowing up one's own pipeline, doesn't it?
This clearly makes the point. It sounds illogical. It's as much logic as blowing up your own pipeline. The pipeline that's making your country billions of dollars. Making your country economically wealthy. You would think that that's the most absurd thing imaginable. That'd be like if that'd be like saying Canada blew up Alberta's oil fields because Justin Trudeau is such a insanity person, or it's just the absurdity of that notion. Like, why would you blow up the thing that's actually making your country economically stable? That makes absolutely no sense to any person. You say that out loud, nobody gets that, why that makes sense. But they go along with it because, again, like we showed in the last video, it's about, the evil man. That theory of the evil man. We got to cultivate this idea, this childlike trauma of this evil boogeyman that's counteracting from you and doing this nefarious stuff because the real tyrants in the world are occupying, controlling, and continuing to do their nefarious stuff. The real tyrants are the people that are telling you who the tyrants are because they don't want to be exposed. John Kirby doesn't want to be exposed. Joe Biden doesn't want to be exposed. So, of course, they're going to point the finger at Vladimir Putin. But she's no different than any other leader.
We've come to no conclusions on this. We're working with the Ukrainians. We'll try to get as much information as we can.
I come to no conclusions. We have nothing on this matter, but we're going to continue to work with Ukrainians as much as possible, and we'll get back to you at some point in time. Because they have nothing. They literally have nothing. They're trying to hold this war together with Band-Aids and duct tape. They're trying to hold on to this narrative as much as possible. And just the absurdity of how much money has been spent trying to put this together, trying to continue to lavish this manufactured war is just absolutely crazy and criminal. And how none of this has ever been investigated. There's no accountability to this. Not even the IRS is looking into this. Like, the absurdity of how much money we have spent, not just the United States, but in Canada and all U.S. allied or NATO allied nations have been drained, financially drained, to manufacture this war and hold up this manufactured war. It's just so insane. And that no one is holding account to that. That our tax dollars, all the tax dollars that is currently, skyrocketing cost of living, causing the inflation, causing, our infrastructure to crumble, our own society to crumble within, our own empires are collapsing within ourselves. Nobody has been held account to that. And even with this absurd John Kirby motion of I have nothing to say and we'll just go with that. Like, I would think the news media would be on top of this guy. I would have thought the news media would be like, we need answers. We need to figure out what the frig we're doing right now. They're not doing that. They're not doing that. They just want to they want to continue on this war because, again, it's about profits. It's about geopolitics. It's about conformation of geocapitalism. It has nothing to do with people. It has nothing to do with democracy. It has nothing to do with humanitarianism. It has nothing to do with saving people. It has nothing to do with national security. None of that matters. None of it matters because we don't even have that here. Okay? We barely care about people in our own backyard. You think we really care about people in another country when we have homeless epidemics left, right, and center in every state and town all across North America? You really think we care about other people in another country? It's all a business opportunity. It's all a lucrative, evil, bloodthirsty, cult-like business opportunity for them. They want to slaughter more people because it's more bang for their buck. And they will continue on to push this war as just much as possible, even the most absurd stories and absurd propaganda spewing out of their mouths. To the point where it's just it's embarrassing. It's embarrassing to see a headline like this and that people would actually believe it. that the United States thinks that they're correct. That Russia would blow up their own infrastructure. How ridiculously stupid that sounds out in the open. And people will eat this up because of a childlike trauma made up story by criminals, by tyrants, to think that Vladimir Putin is the only tyrant in the world. The same that they said about Bashir al-Assad, the same thing they said about Nicolas Maduro, the same thing they said about Saddam Hussein, the same thing they said about Muammar Gaddafi, the same thing that they're saying now about Xi Jinping. It is all just fabricated stories to sell you this bullshit war. And what is it good for? Absolutely nothing. It doesn't do anything for us. All it is for them. And it's amazing that the people that scream the loudest for war are the same pussies that won't fight their own wars. Just take that in mind, too. We're the ones fighting the battles. We're the ones on the forefront. They're sitting behind closed doors, laughing their way to the bank. You'll see what this is really about.